Hello, welcome to Studio Talks. My name's James Swift.
I'm Josh McNorton, and our guest today is...
I'm Paula Page. Hello.
Hey, Paula, you okay?
I'm good, thank you. You?
I'm good,
I'm
thanks.
good. Tired.
One thing I've always picked up on is when the guest asks us how we are, me and Josh wait for each other to answer and then answer at the same time.
It's like synchronized swimming.
Yeah. So how are you doing within the lockdown, and do you have any advice for people?
Lockdown's been as probably as strange for me as it's been for everybody else, really. I sort of had a pre-lockdown experience because last December I had to have emergency surgery for bowel cancer, and then in February I was having chemotherapy and that didn't work and I ended up in hospital. So I just got out of hospital in February and then everything kicked off with the coronavirus. And then on my birthday, it was lockdown.
Oh,
so
God.
It was basically a case of things can only get better, really. So I've just kept myself busy, creatively, decluttering the house, exercising, just being as busy as possible. But it's hard to give anybody advice on this situation because it's so weird, isn't it? And so unique to everybody. And not everybody feels like making something or doing something. And it's whatever suits you, really, isn't it? Whatever gets you through the day.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. I think that's one thing we've been getting a lot where people's been saying it's not all about going out and making your magnum opus, like drawing this or something, where it's like going out and doing something incredibly creative. I think half the time you've got to convince yourself that it's okay to be kind of like, I don't want to do stuff today, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, I've got like this thing, it's out of a magazine that I get called, I think it's called Flow, and it's just like a mindfulness magazine, and it's just a little sort of card, and it says do something nice for yourself every day. So it doesn't mean you've got to change the world, just something that makes you feel good. It might be doing a drawing, might be making something, might be something really, really insignificant, but if it makes you feel good, then it's working, and that's all that matters, isn't it?
Oh, brilliant.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with the studio?
Well, I'm not from Widnes for a start. In fact, I'd never even been to Widnes before I got involved with the studio, which is bizarre. I was volunteering for a theatre company called Imaginarium in Prescott, doing like creative stuff, making props and what have you. And it sort of escalated a little bit, and I got involved with the writing and a little bit of acting with an outdoor performance that we were doing. I didn't know that I could write. I was okay at English at school, but I didn't really know that I sort of had an aptitude for it. But once I got started with this theatre workshop, it became apparent that I had this weird talent for writing verse. And basically they encouraged me. They said, find a writing workshop if you can. And then I was looking on Twitter and I saw the advert for the studio starting their writing workshop. And it really just fitted in perfectly because I work part-time. It was on my off days that it took place. So I thought, right, I'll have an adventure and get myself to Widnes. And the rest is history kind of thing. So one of the best things I've ever done. Just sort of opened up a Pandora's box of writing that I didn't know I could do. So brilliant.
See, the thing is, it's weird because Write On started happening when I was like, not full-time at the studio anymore, so I kind of missed a lot of Write On. And I know that I did a job one day where Lou kind of gave me some of the lockdown literatures, and I was like listening through them and I was like, oh my god, this sounds such a good little program that's going on. I can't believe we've not had stuff like that before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess you've kind of just answered this one, but like what got you interested in creative writing initially?
As I say, it was my involvement with Imaginarium, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart because they sort of prodded me. Sometimes you'll think about doing things and you never get round to doing it, but I was actively encouraged. He said, find a creative writing outlet. So I thought, right, I'm going to do this, and you've got to sometimes sort of put yourself outside of your comfort zone a little bit. Going to meet new people, going to a place you've never been before. It doesn't sound like a big thing, but it can be,
No, it can be the most terrifying thing.
14A, so witness is an experience in itself, you know, because I drive. But it's been so very rewarding from the first meeting onwards. I mean, the first meeting was just that in itself, to me, I think has got enough material in it for a short novel, because it was so interesting, you know, seeing all the different people that were there. Obviously, like, not everybody came to the next meeting, but it was such like a diverse collection of people, and everybody had their own story, you know, and reason for being there. And it was brilliant. You know, we don't actually do a lot of, you know, we don't sit there and write when we're actually at the studio, but we talk about writing and talk about what books we like, and it's that sort of thing that kind of inspires you to sort of go forward and put something on paper yourself. So it's a good sort of tool to encourage your creative abilities, if you've got any, you know. And we all have them, we just don't know it, you know. I mean, I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be able to write a single story, never mind, you know, I've lost count of how many I've written now.
I think what you've just said is quite true, where it's the worst thing you could do at a creative writing group is say, write as a piece of paper, write a short story. I think you need to lay the groundwork almost. Do you know what I mean? Where you need to be like, okay, what do you like to write about? What do you like to read about and stuff like that? Yeah. Cool.
And you don't want it to be like any pressure, and certainly no pressure at all, you know. Wayne is just a brilliant facilitator, and he is informative. You know, he drops in a little bit, tries to sneak in a little bit of grammar for us, which is helpful, you know, because, you know, you don't want a piece of work being edited to pieces because you've not been able to put the grammar in correctly. So it's informative, but in a good way, and educational in a good way, and it makes you want to sort of go home and write something, which is brilliant.
I think that's the thing with grammar is, with me specifically, whenever I write something creatively, I kind of throw grammar out the window and then come back to it later on when someone picks up on it, if that makes sense.
It does, because if you concentrate on it too much, then the creativity sort of sneaks out the back door, you know. So it's important, absolutely important, but the main thing is your creative idea, and anything can be edited at a later stage. So
definitely,
you don't want to think about the grammar side of things.
Well, because I don't like write anything, but I text a lot, so I make sure I've got correct grammar in, so I still remember how to use it in the future. Do you know what I mean? So I don't forget.
Yeah, so it's not like a forgotten art, and we're not all writing you, as in you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just the way you, that annoys me so much.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It makes I'll not be writing a story in text speak anytime soon.
I wonder if anyone has, though. I wonder if anyone's ever wrote a full book.
Probably has done.
They probably have, and if they haven't, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, definitely. The emoji book's coming out soon, I imagine.
Oh, I mean, I am guilty of the odd emoji myself, so I can't really moan too much about that.
I was like adamant about never using an emoji, but like it's now like a kind of second language. Like I use it in most of my texts.
Yeah, I use it quite a lot.
What's your favourite emoji?
The little monkey doing that.
Oh.
Because I'm usually saying something stupid.
What's your favourite emoji, James?
See, okay, so I can't tell if someone's joking through text a lot. So me and Charlotte have a thing where if we're joking about something, we put like the little Joker card emoji. And I think that's probably my favourite emoji because it's so clear. Like I'm like, okay, I get that that's a joke now.
I didn't even know that one existed, so I've learned something today. You know.
I'm keen for that one to be a big thing in the world because I can't tell if people are joking.
So before lockdown, how did the studio support your creative writing?
Well, basically going to every Friday session that I could possibly make. You know, having sort of ideas. Like before lockdown, we were thinking about doing a second monologue, spoken monologue event, and developing that, which is something I'd never ever imagined that I would have done. We did our first monologue about the infamous lottery syndicate, and that was so enjoyable. Yeah, and
that was really well done.
I couldn't believe I actually stood up, and I was sneaky because I was too shy to actually speak the words myself in person at the monologue event. So I recorded mine and just stood there like it was like thoughts being transmitted. Whether I'll ever get beyond that, I don't know, and actually be able to stand up and speak words on a stage, I don't know. But just developing projects like that, and just talking amongst ourselves each week at the meetings. Things would go off at a tangent invariably, but there'd be interesting tangents, and every time I came away from a meeting, no matter how difficult it is for me to get there and get home again, it was worth going, absolutely worth going, and I can't wait for it to start again. But the great thing is, throughout lockdown, it's been able to be sustained and developed more than it probably ever could had lockdown not happened. So you've got to sort of see a weird kind of positive out of it. Yeah. Definitely.
I think the best thing to do out of all of lockdown is just to try and find the little tiny positives in, well, if lockdown hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened. For example, this podcast wouldn't have happened, I don't think, really, as well as it is.
We've talked about it, haven't we, before?
Yeah, but I think it was the good kickstart we needed. So yeah, I think there's a good side to looking at all the good sides of lockdown itself, if that makes sense. Just to kind of get away from negativity of it, if that makes sense.
I think you've got to, because what's the alternative? I stopped watching the government's broadcasts after about 3 of them because I thought,
I've never watched one of them.
I can't take any more of that, So I've kind of sort of removed myself from reality a little bit. So my world was being my conservatory, where I've been doing me writing and me drawing, and that's what's got me through, And I think that's what you've got to do. You've got to do whatever it takes to sort of, get through this weirdness.
Definitely.
And thank goodness for Zoom. Who knew?
So with lockdown in mind, how has lockdown literature benefited you?
I've written stories that I've got no idea where they came from, and this is something that makes me laugh. My mum, I send her copies of what I've written, and also I've sent her like the recordings as well. And she's not very good at giving praise, and she says to me, "Where did you get that from?" How could you possibly have produced such a thing? I've got to take that as a compliment, because that's as good as it gets, really. But it's sort of tested my imagination. Like one of the stories that I wrote was about a unicorn, and that sort of originated from me doing my daily walk every morning, because I live by Country Park in Croxteth, and there's a riding stables there, and there's like a horse on its own, a white horse on its own in the paddock, and the other horses are in another paddock, and I pass it every day when I was out on my walk, and I think, why is that like that? And then it sort of kind of spiraled on from there. I don't know whether it's particularly normal to start thinking about unicorns, but it worked for me, and I wrote the longest story that I've written, and I've had some really good feedback about it. So lockdown has definitely had some positive elements for me, I think.
So moving on to a different subject here, how do you write your poetry?
Quickly. I don't sit there and ruminate over it, and if I can't get it down in an hour or two, then it's not going to happen. I don't know where it comes from, but it will just sort of pop out, kind of thing. If I'm given a subject, I'll think about it and for a little while, and then generally speaking, the poem will come. when I was doing work with Imaginarium, that was mainly verse, because I mean, some people think, oh God, it's poetry, it's got to rhyme. It doesn't have to rhyme. I've sort of moved on a little bit from verse. I can fall into that if I need to, but something that's been sort of a product of the poetry group with the studio has been me learning that poems don't have to rhyme. You know, it can be poetry and not intimidating, and be just as pleasing as something that rhymes. So
definitely.
I have no idea whether I answered the question there or not.
I completely agree with that, because I've only ever wrote like 3 poems in my entire life, and they have all been me thinking about something and then going, right, I'm going to write that down now before I forget, and before it's usually like I have a couplet and think, that's cool, so I completely agree with that, where every time I ever went to write a poem, I've got to do it in a second, or else it would just go away. So no, I completely agree with that.
The same with stories, because I've got two things that I started and I haven't finished, and I probably won't finish them, because I think unless you do it in the moment that you've got the idea,
you lose it, don't you?
It's happened, well, not for me anyway.
So with the poetry in mind, would you like to read a poem first?
I will. It doesn't rhyme. This one is called The Illustrated Man. I'm quite keen on tattoos. I like the imagery of tattoos, and I like the fact that there's more to them than meets the eye. And I mean, people either love them or hate them, don't they? But I think it's very interesting when people get, especially a lot of tattoos.
Yeah, half covered.
Cool, brilliant. What's the the reasoning behind them? Because it's quite a commitment, isn't it, to have something put permanently on your body. So anyway, this is my poem called The Illustrated Man. I know it's rude to stare, but I can't help it. I'm like a magpie attracted to the colours. Each picture has me guessing at the meaning. Are they connected, or as random as the weather? I'd love to ask, but shyness will prevent me. Maybe it's better to wonder and imagine. Then my eyes stumble on the image on his hand. A couple kissing with a passion to be envied. 2 simple words alongside tell the story. Their kiss is love, a love that's never ending. That's my poem.
That's really good. That was really fast. So, was there like an event that you saw someone and you thought you was thinking about tattoos?
I've got 3 tattoos myself. I've got a big on my arm, and I've got 2 on my legs. I've got one that was which is a hare, and that inspired me to write one of my first stories. And the second one that I got last October, just before I got sick, which is an owl sat on a pile of books with glasses on. It's supposed to be me anyway. So I'm always looking at Instagram for ideas, because I like the artistry. I like the tattoo artistry, the traditional tattoos and the more modern stuff and the abstract stuff and whatever. And I saw a particular one of two hands, and one was a ship on the front of the hand, and on the other hand was, as it says in the poem, 2 people kissing, and it said mum and dad next to it. But it was beautifully done, and it just I just thought, oh, that's really, really lovely, and that kind of inspired me. I tend to be, with me writing, I tend to be inspired by imagery, or I'll draw something and that'll make me write a story about it or a poem about it. It's just sort of the way I think, But, tattoos on hands, people think, oh God, love and hate or whatever, or, like prisons or something like that. But there's a lot more to it, I think, definitely. A lot more thought has gone behind taking that choice to have a tattoo than people imagine. I mean, there's some terrible ones out there, there's no question about that, but there's some absolute stunners out there.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine he looks at Josh. I couldn't imagine anyone getting a tattoo without putting any thought into it or anything like that.
My hand tattoo. I just went, oh, gives something good. So I got a guy with a balaclava.
Don't you have a Nike shoe?
Yeah, night trainer. I've got the bee's knees.
Well, if it means something to you, that's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, because
Sorry,
I was just going to say, you know, if you go into a tattoo bar in Benidorm and get something gross on your backside, you know, that's no good. But if you have something that's a genuinely good piece of art on your body and there's a reason for it, then I think that's brilliant.
Mm. Yeah. I think the only tattoo I've ever considered getting is one of my favourite bands. So one of my favourite bands have like bands have like fan group names.
Yeah.
One of my favourite bands, they're called Pat and Pendant. They have their fan group name is Second Family, and the front cover of the first album is a rocket ship with Second Family written on it. And I think that's the only one where I've been like, I'd get that.
The trouble with tattoos is once you get one,
you can't stop.
Yeah,
right.
That's it. Yeah.
It's very addictive.
My biggest difficulty is telling my mum that I've had one done. Because
my grandma. I have to hide my hand on.
Well, it's funny because last week I went back to me. I also go to Witness to do Rocksteady Boxing, which is a boxing program for people with Parkinson's, and it started again last week. And we had they take pictures for the Facebook page, and I had my shorts on, and I showed my mum a picture of me doing my boxing, and there's the little tattoos popped out, and what's that? Never mind saying, you know, oh, well done for getting back into the boxing. It was like, what's that on your leg? What's that on your leg? I was like, oh yeah, I've had another one done. I haven't told her I'm getting another one done in a few weeks' time. You know, I'll leave that for another day, I think.
Do you want me to leave the podcast till after?
Well, I've spent most of this morning explaining to my mum what a podcast is. She's 86 years old. It's been quite a challenging morning.
Yeah, the podcast talk's always a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like radio. What, sorry?
My family act like they know what it is, and they're just like, yeah, well done, Josh, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah, mine all call it broadcasts.
Yeah. As long as you listen to it, then that's the main thing, isn't it? You know?
Cool.
Anyway, how has the poetry socials helped you with write poetry?
Well, it's taken the fear out of it, and I would anybody thinking about participating in the poetry social, I would say go for it, because you know there's a huge assumption out there. Oh God, I can't rhyme anything. You know, I can't do poetry. But poetry is such a wide-ranging thing, and it's such a welcoming group, and you know, it just makes it more accessible and doable. You know, and really, it's really good to hear other people's work and enjoy it. You know, for what it is. You know, and there's no pressure on you to come up with a poem, but if you do, brilliant. You know, and you have the opportunity to read it out, so it's fantastic.
Definitely, I completely agree with that. Like, the last one, I did completely forgot the theme, and I was like, right, I haven't got a poem for today, and it wasn't. Oh my god! And it's the same with the jam session actually, where it's like if you don't have a suggestion, no one's gonna be angry. Yeah, no one's going to tell you off.
I mean, that's what I love about the studio. It is so laid back and welcoming. You know, it's what's not to love about it. You know.
Definitely. So, where can people find like the stuff that you do online?
Well, I'm on Twitter, and also I'm on Instagram. I mean, I tend to mainly, I'll retweet what's going on with the studio on Twitter. I tend to put like any of my drawings and stuff on Instagram. So I'm on Twitter. I am at Paula PG50, and on Instagram I'm P67.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's been absolutely great. I've really enjoyed this one.
It's been a pleasure.
Cool. I'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.